Welcome to the Porter Pridecast, episode 18, on the top-rated podcast about Lockport Township High School and everything going on in Porter Nation. We are here again with a Thanksgiving episode that you're going to love. I'm Brett Hespel, Lockport High School, joined with my other host, Adam Decaire, Lockport High School. Happy Thanksgiving to you, Coach Decaire. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Happy Thanksgiving to you and the Hespel family, as well as all of Porter Nation, especially our faithful Porter Pridecast followers. I don't know about you, but this
around the world.
Around the world, yes. I shouldn't just say just in Porterland, but this is my favorite holiday. You got the big three F's. You got family, you've got food, and you've got football. So I'm looking forward to getting some rest and relaxation here, and enjoy some quality time with the family.
I was wondering what the third F was going to be for a second there, and then I realized that you're a football coach. And
right there, come on.
That was kind of dumb of me.
Probably should have been my number one.
Football number one? Oh,
I saved the best for last.
I got you.
Hopefully my family's listening. I know my mom is.
Yes, your mom is listening. Actually, my dad said something to me the other day. He's like, "Hey, I've been catching up on the Porter Pridecast." I was like, "Oh, there you go." The average age of our audience is shooting up now. I don't know if that's good or bad.
Expanding our horizons. We said we're branching out, so
that is true.
Reaching new target audiences.
Hey, so we're recording this in Thanksgiving week. This is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, 2020. And I'm working on future guests to care. I'm always working on future guests.
Always working around the clock.
I've got a famous one that I'm working on. Well, sort of famous. I mean, more famous than, well, maybe not more famous than us, but more famous than most of our other guests have been thus far. So I get a call today from an NBA superstar, Porter legend, Richaun Holmes of the Sacramento Kings. He's in town, and he's like, "Hey, Hespel, can I get up to the school and get some shots up?" Because he's getting ready to report to training camp because the NBA season is going to start in late December here. And so I got the chance to connect with him a little bit today and talk to an NBA star. Did you talk to an NBA star today?
I did not, but I referenced an NBA star in a trivia question in my class today. Answer was number 23. Shout out, greatest basketball player of all time, Michael Jordan. So no, I didn't get to talk to Michael Jordan. He might be listening.
That was not a hard trivia question.
That wasn't the answer. The answer was 23. It was about Julius Caesar getting. I don't want to bring up negativity, but that was the answer. I gave out shout out to Michael. So Michael, if you're listening, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family.
Send us a pair of shoes for sponsor the 5 things we like, sponsored by Brand Jordan.
But that you bring up Richaun, which that could be with training camp getting ready to start, this NBA season right around the corner. There's these Pridecast Effect rumors going around.
That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
Maybe he comes on the show and he's holding up that trophy like the Lakers were this year.
I mean, he had a huge season last year. He averaged 12 points and 8 rebounds. So maybe he's a double-double guy if he comes on the show. I asked him, and he's like, yeah, let's see if we can work something out. So I don't know. I mean, he gets busy when the season starts, but we'll keep trying. We're going to try to get him on here even if it's just coming on saying hi and then leaving.
Yeah. How bad do you want to win? Really, how bad do you want to win is the question. You'll come on if you want to win.
Good point. So anyway, that's a good segue though to the Pridecast Effect, because we've mentioned the Pridecast Effect, and it is obviously becoming a real thing. So why don't you start rattling off some of the evidence we have for how the Pridecast Effect is really, really a thing.
Yeah, I mean, it started off as a joke, but then we kept referencing it with all the successes, and now postseason accomplishments, they just keep rolling in. Episode 8 star Will Kiley, the Magic Man himself, just had a signing day, committed. We talked about that, but then he got named the Southwest Suburban Conference Athlete of the Year. Great job, Will. Then episode 10, sophomore Kayla Shea comes on again. Great success in the regional and the sectional. The team great. Her coach gets on her favorite podcast. Things are looking good, and boom, Herald News, girls cross country runner of the year. Awesome.
Yeah.
Had the Porter players on last week. They killed it with Shakespeare in the Port. We got the announcement of the SCK, the Shower Cap Kids. Huge fan. They got their own podcast in the works here. Dr. Gilbert's getting followed by famous theatrical drama Twitter accounts. It's endless. The Pridecast effect is real. You want to do something good, fill out an application. It's becoming real.
Yeah. Well, book your spot. Book your spot. We're booking all the way up to episode 200 at this point. Episode 200 is booked by Dan Blaskovitz.
200 is taken, so mark your calendars.
So, yeah, but you're right. Yeah, that's pretty cool. The Shower Cap Kids starting their own comedy sketch podcast thing. They've already told me, I don't know if they've told you this or not because, I mean, why would they? But they've already told me I got a guest appearance coming on the Rinse and Repeat podcast.
I mean, you should have said, I'm a package deal. If you have me, you got to have my tag along.
I should have said, yes, the social media director is.
I'll just stay on mute and I'll just laugh. So, I'll make you funnier. So,
hey, speaking of being on mute, I'm glad we didn't have to put you on mute this week and you got your microphone fixed.
That is one thing I am thankful for. Shout out Bill Jahnke, our technology department, put in some extra work to fix my technological issues. We're back, sounding perfect as always. So it's good to be back. Echo is gone. Studio's picking up here. Got to do some decorating, but glad my voices can be heard again.
Yeah. Well, I know your voice was always perfect. Is the technology that was the problem? So
yeah, it's never me. It's always something else.
We're bringing you this one. Obviously, we've got a neat little guest here. Really closely tied to Lockport. We're going to talk a little bit about how things have been going so far this school year and what we're thankful for in Porter Nation since it's Thanksgiving week. And then after Thanksgiving, we're working on some stuff, want to keep branching out, want to keep finding the other clubs, activities, groups in the school who are doing great stuff. We're working on that and looking to bring back some of our early guests. We had Donnie Wallace, Sawyer Hollitz, and Marcos Vulgaris, who have all moved on to college. And we need a reunion tour here when they're home for break.
That's right. We gotta get caught up with the gang, see how the Salt Rock is doing from Porter Pride Facts champion Donnie Wallace.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll have to relive that. We'll have to relive that contest.
I don't know if we could relive that. But.
Yeah, that is pretty priceless. So that's coming up after Thanksgiving here, between Thanksgiving and the end of the new year. And then who knows what 2021 will bring. So stay tuned. Stay tuned.
It's going to bring more Pridecast episodes, that I know. But
that is true because the news is endless. What are you doing for Thanksgiving, Decaire?
Just keeping it kind of local, heading over to the in-laws and got my family coming over to see the new house on Friday. But just kind of getting some rest and relaxation in and, enjoying some family time. How about you?
Who's cooking?
Not me.
Either.
This episode is probably going to be long enough, but remind me, I got a great episode. My first Thanksgiving involved turkey, a grill, and fire. It's we'll save that for another episode.
Maybe that should be on the Shower Cap Kids guest spot.
Hey, that's my audition. If you want, I guarantee that will make you laugh.
That's good. No, we're staying at our house. My parents are coming over. I'm certainly not doing the cooking. So, yeah, it'll be good though. Good to lay low and recuperate from a long grind, an unusual grind this school year's been. So, shout out to all the educators out there who've done a great job all throughout this. So, yeah, that's what we got. Well, our guest is coming on in just a minute, and he's a good one. He's gonna Well, we'll let him introduce himself here in a minute, but he is definitely a Porter through and through, and somebody who has really leaving his imprint on our community. So we will be right back with our guest for episode 18 in just a second. Well, here we go, Decaire. It is our privilege to welcome in a esteemed guest this week. Not that the other guests have not been esteemed, but this one is especially esteemed. Well, you know what I was going to say? It's the first time we've had someone with their doctorate on, but we had Dr. Gilbert last week. So
back to back.
It's not even a first timer. But we are here with the one and only Dr. John Greenan, principal of Lockport Township High School East Campus. Mr. Greenan, how are you?
I'm doing great, guys. I appreciate you having me on today, the Porter Pridecast. Looking forward to talking about Lockport. I really appreciate you guys being creative and thinking of a way to promote our school and the different student athletes that you've had on, as well as some students from our Porter Players Drama Club as well. So I think this is a really cool thing that you two are doing. So I appreciate you having me on today.
Well, thank you. And we know that with all of the accomplishments you've had in your career thus far, this is clearly at the top of the list, being on the Porter Pridecast.
I have privately been waiting for this invitation. So when you reached out to me last night, I was very excited. I could add one more thing to my list of what I'm thankful for this year.
Well, Decaire, I should let all the audience know that, no offense to Dr. Greenan, but he's a fill-in guest because we were working on some students, a little thing with some students, and it was too many moving parts here in Thanksgiving week because we are recording this in Thanksgiving week here. And so I quickly was like, who can we get on that could save the show? And John Greenan was the first one that came to mind. So
I'm here for you guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this is normally this is like a sports podcast, athletics. We've been branching out. Now it's a scholarly podcast. Back-to-back doctors. I mean, this is
moving on.
You never know what you're going to get here.
It's true. It's true. We're going to get peer reviewed by some academic, professors now. All right. So let's start with your background, Dr. Greenan. So we know your background and some of the viewers will, but others maybe not. So why don't you go back and start just your journey and how you got to Lockport and what it's been like since you got here to get us going.
Sure. So I was born and raised my whole life in Joliet, obviously nearby. I went to St. Ray's, I went to Joliet Catholic and University of St. Francis. My dad being a Lockport graduate himself and me very much being involved in sports and loving sports, my dad took me to quite a few games at Lockport growing up, basketball, baseball, softball games. So though I lived in Joliet, I very much understood at an early age how special of a place Lockport is. I could just see that the way my dad interacted with his friends. He had reunions that he went to all the time. The people who he kept in touch with. I'd have conversations with friends as I got older and as I continued to play basketball and baseball. I'd always get the question, are you as good as your dad was? So, but I very much could see how special of a place that Lockport was. So when I was able to get my first job out of college in education at Lockport as a teacher, it was very special for me and for my dad just because of that bond. And I was hired back in 2002 by former principal Bob Meter and Pete Sullivan. He was at the Freshman Center at the time. I taught social studies for 9 years. I coached boys basketball, started out coaching the freshmen for 4 years, and then I was the varsity assistant for 8 or 9 years with coach when head coach Larry Thompson was our head coach. Went to be after teaching, I became a dean for 6 years, 3 at both campuses, 3 years each. Was assistant principal at East Campus for 2 years, and this is my second year as principal. And growing up in the area, again, I just alluded to knowing about Lockport, and as both of you guys can obviously relate to your experience as being students, playing sports, being involved in the school, and now your roles as teachers and coaches. It's a special place with special people, and the opportunities that we offer our students truly are special. And we know this year has been challenging because we have not been able to do that as much, of course, as we've liked. But nonetheless, we have a group of committed people who are dedicated, to providing the best experiences as possible as we can for our kids. So I'm really happy to be a part of Lockport, this being my 19th year. It's really hard to believe it's been that long. But like I said, we all know how challenging the school year is, but I'm very happy to be a part of a team who's so dedicated to the school, to our students, and doing what's best for kids.
Yeah, so great bio there. You left out a key part, that you are actually the key to my career starting at Lockport in the social studies department. You got the dean's job at Central. I transitioned in from task force to social studies in room 228, where the education was great. Most people leave like a housewarming gift. Dr. Greenan left the greatest gift of all time, a classroom welcoming gift, warming gift, a boombox, I believe, your 7th grade birthday, I think.
You've got a tremendous memory, Mr. Decaire. That's great, absolutely, yeah.
No, I just remember asking if you want it. You're like, nope, it's got to stay in the classroom. And then I remember when you came back to East to be a dean there, I remember I brought it down to your office, and you were just like, nope, I've moved on. It's got to stay there. And then and then I left to Central, and Hannah Seymour took over, and she got it. She tried to get me to take it, and I said, nope, it's a staple. So
I absolutely love how you remember that story. There's certain gifts that you get when you're a kid that you always remember, right?
That's right.
The boombox was one of them. The boombox and my first CD, House of Pain, Jump Around.
There you go.
That was it. And so, yeah, I brought that thing with me, obviously, through the years. And I love how you remember that. And the connection, too, it's funny, as you were talking about that, our former principal, Dennis Hicks, it's very strange how I got hired in a way because he left. At the time when I was applying for positions, Dennis was he was a dean at Lockport, took an assistant principal job at another school at Romeoville High School. A social studies teacher at Lockport at the time got his dean's job, and he coached basketball. And at the time, only 2 of the 4 deans could coach. So that opened up a social studies job and a basketball coach position, and I was fortunate to get the job. And that was because of Dennis Hicks leaving Lockport. And then I was, so fortunate to get the principal job following in the footsteps of Dennis Hicks. So as you were sharing that story, Adam, it brought back some good memories of my good friend and mentor, Mr. Hicks.
Well, that's oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead, Decaire.
No, I was just going to say, that's funny that you bring up, former principal Dennis Hicks, because I wanted to ask about him. Obviously you mentioned this is your 2nd year as principal at East Campus. You've mentioned the challenges that we've gone through so far this year, and then obviously last year, with the end going into quarantine. What was I was just curious, what was some of the advice he gave you, kind of starting off, as he was transitioning out, you transitioned in, you guys had worked together already, but what was some of that advice? I'm always interested to hear kind of like that mentor role.
Yeah, no, great question. And I was assistant principal 2 years with Dennis, his last 2 years, obviously, as principal, and learned so much from Dennis. And I would say one of the biggest things I can remember, and he still does, I keep in touch with him, if not every other week, once a month or so, he's checking in, wanting to know how things are going, always offering, someone for me to talk to, and just always encouraging, and really someone who I genuinely felt believed in me, believed in my abilities, and always encouraged me to continue to give it my best. And for those that know Mr. Hicks, know how positive of a person he is, how encouraging he is, how much he loved Lockport. And I know he felt very happy when I got the position, because he felt like I would continue on the traditions that we have at Lockport, but also being open-minded and willing to learn as we go into the future as well. So he'd always, tell me to continue to be myself, to continue to work hard, to trust in my abilities. And that's something that I take with me. I've been, besides Dennis, just so fortunate in my life to have some great people who have influenced me around the way. You ask that question, it just gets me thinking back to so many people who I've had the experience to interact with. And I start with my parents. I'm just so thankful for the way that they raised me and the values that they instilled in me that I take with me to this day. Someone growing up involved in sports, I had a lot of great coaches along the way, playing at St. Ray's, playing at St. Joe's Baseball Park in Joliet, playing at Joliet Catholic, playing at the University of St. Francis. Pat Sullivan was my head basketball coach at St. Francis. I think about some of the people early in my career at Lockport. I mentioned Bob Meter, Ken Irvin, our former athletic director. I know he was mentioned in one of your previous Porter Pridecasts. I always said, if you're ever feeling bad about yourself and you're down in the dumps, give Ken Irvin a call, because he will absolutely turn that around and do it in a genuine way, not in a way that's just going to flow, just make you feel good and just kind of say some things maybe they don't really feel like he means. Be completely genuine about it. And, I've named a handful of people, and I can go on and on, Larry Thompson, who I mentioned earlier as well. But I think those are people in my life who, starting with my parents, really had an influence on me in the way that you treat people. And I think that that's a huge part of whatever we do in life. And as challenging as times can be, as challenging as certain situations can be, I believe that if you stay true to yourself and you genuinely care about people, that's going to help you in so many tough cases. And, you mentioned the doctorate, and I'm very proud of that, of course. But there's some times where I will honestly rely back on just kind of thinking about what my mom or dad would tell me to do about a certain situation, the advice that they would give me. In fact, I had something last week that I was dealing with, and I just kind of thought a little bit about, what would my dad tell me about this now? So I've been blessed to have great people in my life, and I try to be that kind of person for our Lockport community.
Well, obviously I couldn't agree more, but I think, if you're a young student out there and you happen to be listening, those people are around you now. You just, you got to look around you, or you're going to find 2 or 3 of them, especially at a school like ours. Even if you're not lucky enough to maybe have them at home or something like that, there are so many good teachers and coaches in our school alone, parapros, and just people, all kinds of people who you could find that from. So I would encourage everybody to, look around you and find those people, because they're there. They're there. It's not like you had a unique situation. I mean, you did, but it's not like you're the only person that is blessed to have that. We are in a place that has a lot of those people. And we're going to talk about that again in a little bit, but I'm glad you brought that up. But I do want to mention something, Mr. Greenan, because maybe it's a coincidence, but first year as principal, school year gets shut down. Second year as principal, we have to go remote, back and forth between hybrid and remote. So I'm not saying that's your fault or anything. I'm just,
Well, I think you are onto something though, Brett, because it might have something to do with me. I can go back and recall my first year as a dean. I'll just put it this way. Out of my 6 years as a dean, my first year was the most challenging. And I can remember within the first semester of that first year at Central Campus, several staff members coming up to me and saying, "It's usually not quite like this, John. It's usually not quite like this." And I just said, "Hey, I don't know anything different. So I'm just going to keep on going about it, just do the best I can. And this is just kind of how it is." So with now in this principal position, you might be onto something. They might just need to get rid of me for things to start getting better. So I might have some kind of strange curse, but
I hope
in all honesty, though, we all talk about obviously how challenging this is, but I do go back to what I mentioned earlier. I'm very blessed to be in this position. And because this isn't just principal talk, I truly know how hard people are working no matter what they have. And how do I know that? I relate that to the experience that I've been fortunate to have at Lockport as a teacher, as a coach, a fresh start counselor at Central Campus, a dean at both campuses, being an assistant principal. I can truly say that I've worked with every subgroup of staff that we have at our school, and I know the work they put in. I know how important every position and every role is to make our organization work and be the best we can be for students. So when I talk to people, whether that be in person or via Google Meet or Zoom, I know how hard people are working, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. And just know that, and to look at this in a positive way, we're going to come out of this doing different things in our jobs that we've never done before, but that's just going to make us better. And it's going to also give us some ideas of things that we're currently doing that we can continue to do in the future. So I'm one that, I'm a realist. Sometimes it's okay just to say that things are tough. It helps. You should be honest sometimes when you're like, hey, this is a tough situation, and sometimes maybe use other words to describe that. But when it comes down to it, I definitely want to be positive and look at the positive in things. And I think that's something that we will be able to look back on. Obviously not wanting the situation to occur, but also looking back at a lot of new things that we all learned as educators and how we all got better.
Speaking of that, have you noticed anything from the students that makes you say, wow, like what we got some great kids around here. I mean, because like you mentioned, it's been such a tough, unique time. Everyone, including the kids, have been faced with situations that they might never ever have again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen anything that stood out to you from like the student body perspective?
Sure. There's a couple things that come to mind. It's really nice to get the email from a student or a parent to express their thankfulness for an acknowledgement, to know of how hard we're working and that we're doing our best to provide the best experiences for our kids, looking to see what has gone well and looking to see some areas that we can do better next semester with remote learning and just this whole situation. So I guess when you have students and parents that reach out and express thanks, like I'll give an example too. Last week, our athletic department did a great job in organizing a signing day ceremony for some of our senior athletes. And that same evening, we had our National Honor Society induction ceremony that we had organized in a safe and staggered way over the course of 2.5 hours. And, being principal, something that's very important to me is to be visible as much as possible at as many events that I can be at, whether that be activities or athletics. It's important. And I haven't had one of those nights in a really long time. There's certain weeks that we've got a lot of things going on at Lockport, as you guys know, and I try to be at as much as I possibly can. And there's some nights where we have things going on right after school and into the evening, and I may not get home to see my family. So I had one of those nights last week, but it was the first time in like 8 months. But it actually felt kind of good because I was able to see our students. I was able to see their parents on the athletic end of things, to see that special moment, to share that with them. And that's a big moment, moving on the next step in your athletic career and academic career by going on to the next level. And just seeing how appreciative and the parents and the students giving thanks for having that opportunity. And then the same thing for the NHS ceremony that night. We had them come in 10 at a time over the course of 2.5 hours. And it was well worth the length of it, just because, again, you saw the students appreciate things. You saw the parents give thanks for knowing that a lot of work was put into this event, but it was well worth it. So and another thing, I was doing a formal evaluation a couple weeks ago when we were in person, and it was a horticulture class, Miss Martin's horticulture class. to see how engaged and enthusiastic the students were in doing their pumpkin floral arrangements, that made my day. I was having one of those days where I think I kind of needed something. You know, we all kind of have those moments where we need a little something to kind of get us recharged and just a little bit of reminder of why we're doing what we're doing. And me having the chance to see that particular class and the way they interacted with each other, the passion that the teacher had, it just made me just happy as building principal. So, you know, those are just a few things right off the top of my head, Brett, that, you know, when you ask, and I could sit here and tell you about so many more, but, you know, when we put the work in that we should be putting in, it's always nice to get that feeling of thankfulness, because I can remember the experiences I had in high school and in college. And, you know, I was in high school 25 years ago, yet I still can vividly remember my senior year and the special moments that I had throughout that year. So that's why me and so many of us are dedicated to doing the best we can to provide those experiences for our kids.
Yeah. So, you know, so you mentioned this kind of already, focusing on the positives, and obviously we could talk about all the challenges and, you know, all the negative circumstances, but, you know, again, like I like to look at the optimistic aspect. What are some, you know, you mentioned some already, but like, what are some of the biggest surprises for you that have come out of the quarantine at the end of last year and then this year with the hybrid and remote and back and forth? Kind of what has surprised you the most from your viewpoint?
What has surprised me the most? I think I probably how well our staff and students adjusted to what we needed to do in order to have in-person learning, with wearing masks, with distancing as best as possible. And maybe surprised isn't the best word to use to answer your question, Adam, but I just, as last spring came into the summer and we had this feeling that, look, we're still in this thing, right? Like, we're not going to start the school year normal. And knowing the things that we were going to need to do as the school to have in-person learning. And we were able to have 5 weeks of it, but it definitely asked for a lot of people, of our staff and our students, to wear a mask all day for the first time. You know, up until school, people would wear their mask in and out of places, but really probably not for an extended period of time, right? Not like 7.5 hours like you would at school, right?
Right.
So that was, I was a little worried about that. I was very worried about that, to be completely honest with you. And it started when we had welcome back days in August, and actually started before that when we were bringing our athletes back onto campus, you guys very much being a part of that and being a huge part of why it was so successful in the summer and as we're continuing on. But it started at welcome back days at East Campus, and just seeing the students and the parents and all of our staff complying with what they needed to do with masks, doing the best they could with physical distancing. It's tough. You know, it's you gradually want to get closer to people when you communicate with them, right? So was it perfect? No. Was everything perfect with wearing the mask? Of course not. But in just about every case, when you ask someone to comply with it, they did. So as we go into the next semester and still not really sure, you know, what platform of learning we're going to have, I do take with me a lot of confidence and also just thanks that people are very committed to doing whatever we need to do to have in-person learning, because we know how important that is.
Yeah, man, you're not kidding. Like I can't recall since all the days we were in school of two times I saw a kid walking down the hallway with, and we're talking like just barely his nose showing or her nose showing. Like, hey, could you pull that up real quick? Oh yeah, this is an accident. Yeah. But I can't think of, you know, I mean, and as educators, we talked about it in the summer before school started. What are we going to do? How are we going to enforce this? You know, I haven't even seen an issue. It's just like you're totally right.
Yeah, and you know, we made the decision to not issue lockers this year, just because that would be a key piece to keep the flow of students moving, particularly in the passing periods, and of course before and after school. And I am out in the hallways just about every passing period that I possibly can in between meetings. And again, just another example of how kids are just doing a great job of going where they need to go. I'll tell you what, there's times where I'm actually kind of wanting to see the kids talk to each other more, right? You want to see that to kind of feel that normalcy again. And that's something that we'll obviously have to work on. But the students are doing a great job. And it really does begin with our staff, though, because we have to model it. We have to model it, and our staff, they've done a tremendous job with the protocols that we have in place. And, it kind of gets me thinking, too, a little bit as I talk about, the dedication of our staff and really our facilities employees, building and grounds, our custodians, our maintenance personnel, the work that they put in and year out to make our buildings look as beautiful as they do, both East and Central Campus. There was so much added onto their plates this year with having to have only so many desks in classrooms to make sure they were spaced out. All of the work that was done in order for us to serve lunches to our students after a few weeks of in-person learning. Our food service staff that we work with, Quest. It kind of gets back to what I talked about earlier. So many different people and groups of staff who work within the school. There's so many people that have a tremendous impact. Our transportation, our bus drivers, so many different people that have such a great impact and are key parts to our school. And to see all that in action, it really is humbling just to see the work that people put in and the dedication that people have.
Well, I was getting ready to segue into, this is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving that we're recording this. And so we want to talk a little bit about what we're thankful for in Porter Nation. And you already stole my first one. I had one I was going to offer as an example. I was going to talk about the facilities people.
Okay.
And you just cross that off my list.
Well, I apologize.
I'm just still shocked he didn't. I'm still shocked. You said your biggest surprise wasn't talking to us Tuesday night at 9:00 on Thanksgiving break. I mean, I don't know many people that would want to be in your seat besides maybe number one fan, Coach Cronholm. Shout out. I know you're listening, but
yes.
I thought that was a shoo-in answer.
Well, when I asked Brett if 8:30 was okay, that did surprise me. I figured you guys would be in bed by then. So I was pleasantly surprised to hear that this time worked for you.
Yeah.
Brett, like you had mentioned too, I saw a couple things that you put out on Twitter, regarding basketball this week, and how much basketball means to us. Brett and I, we used to coach together. And I mentioned earlier, I went to St. Francis. I coached at Lockport. And this week, we're missing something that's been very special to us and really a tradition for me and my family, and that's going over to St. Francis for the Thanksgiving tournament. And I was talking to my dad and actually Larry Thompson today a little bit, and it was 25 years ago. I was a junior in high school playing in that tournament, and I've been going there ever since as a player, as a coach, now as an administrator, as a fan. It's become a tradition for the week of Thanksgiving. I'm over there 2, 3, 4 times a week. But you know what? It did get me thinking a little bit. As much as we're missing that and so many other things this year, just really thankful for the work that people have put in to try to make and to try to provide experiences for our students. Like I said, I mentioned the Porter Pride. The Porter Players Drama Club that you guys had a couple of the students on and Dr. Gilbert on. What they had to do to modify Shakespeare in the Port and do that. I mentioned NHS in our athletic department as well. We're trying to modify things as best we can to still have experiences for our students. And it's very different this year, but I am very thankful for people putting in all the extra work to do the best they can.
Decaire, you've been around. We've all been around Lockport for a long time. So, you got anything that stands out to you that you're thankful for, especially in this time, for being a Porter?
Yeah, I was telling my classes this today, and I said the same thing yesterday with my first 4 classes. But obviously, this being Thanksgiving week, focusing on things to be thankful for, and I told them it's cliche, but I just said I'm thankful for all of their patience and hard work, and I've just been amazed with, and I'm sure you would say the same thing with your students, Brett, and I'm sure a lot of teachers would, but just how seamless the transitions has been. And with us both being at Central and teaching freshmen, this is not the way that they saw high school starting and, the experiences, but, they haven't skipped a beat in my class. They've done everything that I've asked. They've done it with enthusiasm. So, I just told them I was so thankful for, all of their, their dedication to their academics, to their learning, taking responsibility. It could be really easy for a lot of these kids just to kind of, go with the flow and just kind of hide in the back and do minimal. But, I've just been amazed, from my perspective. And that doesn't surprise me as both of us being students at Lockport. It's always a great school of tradition, both of athletics that we obviously focus a lot on, but more importantly, the academic piece. So that's been the one thing that I've been most thankful for, especially, with all the back and forth that we've gone through this year. It's been pretty consistent. It's made my life a lot easier. So thank you to my students and all the other students out there.
Yeah. And I'll echo that because I've never, maybe I have, I just don't realize it because the conversations happen in passing, but it stands out to me this year. So many kids are willing to reach out to me to ask a question or to say, hey, I've been working on this. How can I add this thing to it? Or can you clarify? Maybe kids have asked me that over the years, and you just because you're moving from one class to the next, you just don't really notice them. And then now when it's they're staying after on a Zoom call or a Google Meet, or they're sending you an email, it just stands out more oh, wow, that type of kid that kind of you might have slipped through the cracks a little bit, not noticed, is really reaching out to make an effort to do the best they can. When you're a teacher, what more could you ask for than kids who want to learn and be their best? That's why you get into the business. So I'll echo what you said, Adam, there for sure.
You're always stealing all my stuff anyway, so.
Well, hey, and you know what? I guess I should mention this because without the pandemic, Greenan and I, we're always bantering about ideas we have. Since we teach together all day long, we're always hey, what if we tried this? Or what if we try that?
I don't believe that.
And
banter with you guys? No.
Yeah. And so we were we should start a podcast about Lockport. And without the pandemic happening, it would probably have been all the other ideas laying on the back floor of my classroom. What happened to that? I can't tell you how many times we get to a point and we're wait, we talked about this. What were we going to do for that thing? And then we can't remember because that idea came and went. But the pandemic gave us the chance last spring to jump on with Donnie Wallace and Sawyer Holitz and Marcos Vulgaris and just start doing it. We had no idea what we were doing. We just started talking. And here we are.
Yeah, like I said at the top with you guys, you really am thankful that you guys thought of this idea, a creative way to showcase our school. The guests that you've had on, of course, starting with the students, and it's been fun to see some of the guests that you've had with our current students, of course, and the success, of course, that we had in our fall season, as abbreviated as it was. We had sectional championships with girls tennis and cross country, and we had individual accolades, and then, like I said, I loved how you also included the kids from the drama club as well to put a focus on them and all the work that they put in to modify the fall play this year. So both of you guys being Lockport guys and knowing how much pride that we have in the school, and now showcasing this with the Porter Pridecast, it's a great thing. So I thank you guys for that.
All right. So last question. If you could kind of get Porter Pride into one idea, what would you say Porter Pride is?
Oh,
it's
boy.
tough. It's a tough question.
Yeah,
this is why we win Emmys. Porter, right? This is why we win Emmys.
No pressure, but you're the first answer. We're gonna start asking this to every single guest, so you are setting the bar.
Yeah.
So what Porter Pride means to me, what it's all about. So I hope you're not looking for a short answer.
Well, that's the beauty about podcasts. It's long form conversation.
Yeah. When I think of Porter Pride, first thing that comes to me again is I think about the great tradition that we have as a school district. We've been around for over 100 years, right? And our high school is such a vital piece to the community. And it means so much to the people in all of our communities that we serve at LTHS. And with that being said, moving forward to the future and to continue to take our school district as one of the best in the state, it takes a team of people to truly put the work in to provide the best experiences for our kids that I've mentioned a few times throughout this Pridecast. And, you know, when I applied for the principal position, I always liked how Principal Green at the Freshman Center used the slogan, best self, best work. And I wanted to, think of something that could take a little bit of that, but then also add another piece to it. And that's in just thinking of the words, together we succeed. It's about putting your best effort in, like what Principal Green talks about at the Freshman Center, to give your best. But as we all know, no matter what accomplishments we have in our life, no matter how hard we work, you earn that as an individual, but we've all needed people along the way to help us out, right?
Yeah.
And when I think of Porter Pride, I think about our students, our staff, giving the best that they can, but then also being very willing and wanting to help each other out, because that's what we do. I very much in my experience in education have learned about the concept of servant leadership, and that is really putting others' best interests in front of yours, doing what's best for the people who you have the privilege to lead. And I think that's very much of being a porter as well, being willing to serve, being willing to do your best and to work together. Because again, you can't accomplish anything on your own. As smart as you may be, as hard as you may work, we all need that extra push, whether that be from a teacher, a coach, whatever the position may be at the school. So Porter Pride is something that we talk about. Those slogans that I mentioned is something that we talk about. Words are important, but actions are even more important. And we have the people at our school district that are willing to put the words into action. And that's what makes me so proud to be the principal at LTHS.
Decaire, I don't think we have to ask the question anymore.
Was that good?
I think
Was it all right?
Covered every base. We're good.
Okay.
we can retire that question after one time.
One and done. It's one and done.
Right.
Hey, like I said, we've got a unique school district where, our mascot isn't just like a simple wildcat or a bulldog, right? I very much like to get into the description of what a porter means.
Agreed.
The traditional aspect to it, going back to those who worked on the I&M Canal, those who refer to themselves as a lock porter back in the day. There's very much a historical sense to it. So I really do enjoy, though it's not like the most simple answer, I really do enjoy that uniqueness about our school district.
Well, Dr. Greenan, we appreciate you taking some time here right before Thanksgiving to jump on with us and talk about what we're thankful for and what Lockport means to us. We appreciate your leadership and your willingness to help us out on the Pridecast here. So thanks for coming on and have a happy Thanksgiving.
Hey, thanks to both of you. I really do appreciate you having me on. I appreciate everything that you're doing in your roles as teachers and coaches at our school. And I really just wish, both of you and all of the followers of the Porter Pridecast.
Hey, by the way, Greenan, that the followers of the Pridecast are in Singapore and Germany also. Did you know that?
International sensations.
We have listeners logging in from Singapore and Germany.
You're going to have to start doing, you're going to have it translated too, right? It has to start working on that.
Yeah.
Wow, that's impressive. But no, thanks for doing this. Like I said, it's been great to see our current students. It's been great to see some of the former students that you've had, two of which that I coached when you had Billy Reed and Tommy Hook on. So, thankful for you guys to put in this extra effort, like I said a couple times, to promote our school, to promote our students, and really have a happy Thanksgiving. Take this week to really rest up because, we've all definitely worked more and probably harder than we ever had, no matter what your position is. And it's important to take some time to be with family and to rest as well. So I hope you guys can do that.
Thank you, sir. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Dr. John Greenan, principal of East Campus. We will be back in just a second. That was our principal, of East Campus at Lockport, Dr. John Greenan, who has been a porter for some time and, like he mentioned, has deep ties to our school and has worked in many different roles. Always great to hear his take on how things are going, especially when you start your career as a principal and then boom, school is shut down. That's, kind of unique. So good to hear from him.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about the possible phenomenon of a Pridecast effect, and you brought up. Hopefully, it's just a coincidence. Hopefully, there's no Greenan effect there. But no, it was great to have him on, and like you said, all the different roles that he's played. Like he went through, started off in our department in the social studies department as a teacher, and then became a dean over at Central, and then transitioned back over to East as a dean, became an assistant principal, and now the current principal. He's had all those different hats and he's had different perspectives, and it's with his dedication and his hard work and all those great leadership qualities he had that's allowed him to rise to the position he's in. So I'm really glad to have great leadership like Dr. Greenan and all of our administrators have done a tremendous job of making our lives as easy as possible and trying to provide the best opportunity for our students to be successful. So yeah, it was great to hear from him.
So if there is a Greenan effect, and now he's been on the Pridecast, which way does this go? Does this doom our show, or does the Pridecast effect trump the Greenan effect, and therefore he will go on a hot streak here?
I mean, I think time will tell if there is if we're 18 and done. If you're searching Apple Podcasts next week and you don't see episode 19 and never hear from us again, you'll know what happened. You know who to blame. But I'm going the opposite route. We're focused on positivity. We're going to this is going to boost we're going to get some more international ratings. We're not just going to be in Germany and Singapore. Greenan's
Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka.
There we go. Greenan's career is going to take off even more than it had. He's going to start winning awards.
Writing books.
Principal of the year.
It's going to be
won all royalties.
Author. Run for governor. It all started here.
I mean, maybe he starts his own podcast. I mean, who knows?
well, I mean, someone's got to be number 2.
That's right.
In the Lockport listening area.
Yeah, it could be the principal podcast. There you go.
See, that's a great idea. We should, we're full of ideas.
Yeah, the problem is, like you said, we're full of them, but none of them ever come to fruition here. So
yeah,
we're looking for secretaries. We need interns.
We do. It's business is booming. All right, so this was a good episode 18, kind of like a little recap and an insight into how things are going. We are in Thanksgiving week here, so you might be listening to this over Thanksgiving break. We hope that each of you in Porter Nation or connected to Lockport have a very happy Thanksgiving, that you take some time to spend it with people that you care about, whether in person or virtually, and that you really reflect on all the great things that you have in your life. And hopefully part of that is reflecting on, memorable times or connections to Lockport, memorable moments of Porter Pride, whether you were a parent or an athlete or a student yourself, or whether you're going through it now or you're a faculty member or whatever. We just hope that you had the best Thanksgiving and that you get a chance to reflect on some things. And we hope you're thankful for the Porter Pridecast too.
I mean, that's a given. Should be. If it's not, you need to do some more reflecting.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So that brings us to the end of episode 18 before we do something stupid and we say something dumb. And, I have to edit it out to make us sound smart. We'll just cut it off here. Don't forget to like the Twitter, Instagram. Don't forget to follow us. You can find us Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Share it with a friend. While you're sitting there for Thanksgiving dinner, say, hey, have you guys heard about the Porter Pridecast yet? And they're going to look at you and say, well, of course, who hasn't? And then you can share your favorite memories, or they're going to look at you and you're going to be like, what have you been doing since this pandemic started? and I've got something for you to do. And there you go. You're going to talk about it at the dinner table. I know.
That's right. 18 hours of their lives done. I got to pencil it in.
Yeah, you could easily catch up and binge listen. Is that a thing?
We're going to make it a thing.
You could binge listen over Thanksgiving break, and boom, there you go. It's like you're here right now in Lockport.
You know, if you're having trouble falling asleep, just throw on the Pridecast. It might put you right up.
If the turkey didn't do the job, then the Pridecast will finish it off. So there you go. Anyway, we will be back after Thanksgiving. We got a few things in store between now and the end of the 2020. So we'll maybe get a little revisit from some former guests, hopefully. So anyway, we got more stuff coming your way. Don't forget that you are listening to the #1 Lockport Township High School podcast out there. And remember, Decaire, that no one
talks porters like we talk porters.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. We'll see you guys in December.
Go Porters.
Hey, listeners. This is Brett Hespel of the Porter Pridecast. Just wanted to thank you for joining the show, but we also want to make sure you follow along. So here's our other host, Adam Decaire. We'll talk about where you can follow us.
Yeah, again, thanks for logging in, giving us a listen. Make sure to follow us on all your social media needs on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at Porter Pridecast for both. So give us a like, give us a retweet, spread the word, tell all your friends, tell all your followers, like both those accounts, and keep on coming back.
And you can get the show, you can get our podcast wherever you find your podcasts. And you could also check out Porter Pridecast TV on YouTube. Just search Porter Pridecast on both, and you'll be able to come up with them. So make sure you subscribe to both of those channels so you can get all the episodes when they come out.
Don't forget to leave us those reviews, preferably 5 stars, and keep spreading the word. Go Porters.
Go Porters.